Historic Landmarks Visitor Center. My name is Ranger Caroline, and today we're going to do a virtual tour of the inside of the Visitor Center because at this time we are going to remain closed. But if you do come out to the fort, please enjoy our trails, our garden, and take a tour of the fort. This is our 1841 mountain howitzer that was graciously donated by the Felborn Foundation. If you want to come in a little closer, I can show you some more details about it. So the cannon with the carriage weighs about 500 pounds altogether. When we do clean it, we use this for reenactments and big events, and we actually do shoot blanks out of it. If we were to shoot a projectile, it would probably end up on somebody's roof, so we definitely don't want to be doing that. All right, so there could have been two types of cannonballs that would have been shot out of the howitzer. The first one I want to talk about has these two little dimples here on the sides, and you would have used a tool and opened this up, and inside would have been tons and tons of little musket balls and some gunpowder. So think about like a shotgun casing, how all of the shrapnel goes everywhere. This would be the first type. The second type would be a heavier one. It's about 12 pounds, which is super heavy. And both of these could projectile over 1,000 yards, so they can go pretty far. So this would be the carriage that's attached to it. This would make it so transporting the cannon would be a little bit easier. You could hook it up to a carriage with a horse and just move it around. But also, after you disassemble it, this part goes on the ground, and you would have two guys on the back here holding these handles, and you'd be able to aim it in either direction. The display you're looking at now was made possible by the generosity of the Clay Electric Foundation. We're going to look around the bottom of the display now and try to find all of the animals along the bottom. We're going to post the answers in the comments section, so see if you can play I Spy and find each of the animals that are located in the display. So the Seminole is represented on the left, and the Seminole tribe of Florida actually made his entire attire, and this is exactly what they would have been wearing during this time period. So 1827 to 1842, when the Seminole Wars were happening, this is what traditional Seminole would be wearing. And then if you look on the right-hand side, you'll see that the soldier is wearing some pretty thick uniform material. And you'll have to think about being in Florida and wearing thick wool. It probably wasn't the most comfortable thing. And also that big leather hat probably trapped heat in there as well. So think about when you're outside, this probably isn't something you'd be wearing in the summertime. Also, if you look at their guns, you can see that when you're looking at the Seminoles, it looks a lot lighter. Which it was. The Seminoles actually traded with the Spanish, and they got a much lighter, much easier to haul around gun, and the soldier had a much heavier, bulkier gun that was issued to them. So this made it much easier for the Seminoles to tote their gun around and run around and use the guerrilla warfare that they were so greatly versed in. So soldier rations would have weighed about 2 pounds for the entire day of food, which sounds like a lot, but is actually not. What they would be eating is exactly what you see on this plate. In the top, you would see salt pork, and the reason that they would eat salt pork is because it would last a lot longer with the salt. There's also a maggot on it to represent that the food probably wasn't the freshest, probably stuff that we wouldn't want to eat today, or even back then. I mean, who wants to eat old food? Beans, and then that hardtack, the bottom piece is actually 15 years old. A reenactor donated that to us. So they have been saying that, you know, they could reuse hardtack for years and years and years for many different regiments and armies, and they would just keep on passing the hardtack down because it would last forever. At the top, we're representing some other rations that they would probably be getting. This would be closer to a month's supply. So you would have some beans, some coffee, and some salt. During this war, they were drinking alcohol a lot just because the water sources were really dirty. A lot of the people here at Fort King actually died from dysentery. Near the end of the war, they switched using alcohol and they switched it out for coffee, and a lot more people were getting sick because alcohol was actually cleaner than the water, and now that they were drinking coffee, they had to drink that dirty water, which was making them sick. So unlike today, how we have electricity, soldiers had to live only by candlelight. So this would be their ration. They'd probably have about 3 to 5 candlesticks, and that would have to last them throughout the entire month. They'd be writing letters if they could write. A lot of them couldn't. And then they would have somebody else write letters for them if that was the case. Also, if you look at the playing cards, they look a little bit different than ours do nowadays. They don't actually have numbers on them. So they just have the symbols, and that was because they didn't put numbers on them till later. Here we have a pipe. It's a clay pipe. They of course didn't know that smoking tobacco was bad for them. And clay pipes we find a lot of, the archaeologists do, and that's because they're easily broken, and also if a soldier wanted to use another soldier's pipe, they would break off the end of it and pass the pipe because they didn't have dentists, so their oral hygiene was really gross. And then next we have a shaving kit, so a straight razor, a double-sided comb. The reason why one side is smaller than the other is because there's probably a lot of lice going around, so you try to get the lice and comb your beard and shave with a straight razor there. And this brush would make a lather so you could get a real good tight shave. And then up here we have kind of your package that you would make for your musket. So you'd have, your musket balls, your gunpowder, and you'd be able to make your little cartridge pack there. And the cartridge pack consists of the gunpowder and the musket ball, and the soldier would either rip it with his hand or rip it with his mouth and then pour all that stuff into his musket to be able to fire it. There we have a flask, because everybody knows Florida gets hot. You gotta stay hydrated, whether it's 1832 or 2020. So on each side of me, there is a case full of artifacts. We've actually recovered thousands of more, but due to not having the climate control in our center as of now, we can only display so many. So on this side here, if you want to come a little bit closer, we have some buttons that have fallen off of uniforms and caps. And then further down, you'll see all this beautiful china. And the reason why there is such beautiful china here is because soldiers and Seminoles were trading with the Spanish, and they had beautiful china. So it's kind of funny to think about all this nice china in the middle of a dirt fort. So pretty interesting as well. And then in this case as well, we have a lot more of the pottery, and then a lot of the bottles that have been recovered, like I spoke about earlier, about how there was a lot of alcohol because the water sources were not very clean. In our touch display, we can really see the difference between two worlds. So when people think about Indians or tribes, a lot of people think about arrowheads, which actually is not this time period. It was actually thousands of years prior. So I like to show everyone, these are some of the tools that pre-Seminoles, pre-tribes would have used. So still native tribes, but thousands of years earlier. These are also scrapers and knife tools that they would have used. And then over here on the soldier side, so this is more of our time period, you can see some different things. They actually could not make that great of bricks just because of how the ground is here. they would have had to get them imported. And since Ocala is pretty far away from a water source, bricks were actually sent by ship. So if somebody did have nice bricks, unlike that one, they were probably very wealthy. This is a horse stirrup from our time period. A nail, so you wouldn't be able to go to Lowe's and buy a box of nails. These would have to be hand forged by a blacksmith. So the fort, when they were putting the walls up, had to be made by all of these blacksmith nails. This is the lice comb that I was telling you guys about earlier. Get all your nice little bugs out of your hair. This is the powder sack that you would use for your musket. And then this is just another cannonball. This is a small one, about 1.5 pounds. So compared to that 12-pounder, it's a lot smaller. So normally we would start our tour here at the Visitor Center with a film. It's about 10 minutes long, and it goes over more of an extensive view of the history here. We're gonna go ahead and link that video below, so make sure and check that out. And if you're super inspired, become a volunteer. We're also gonna put my phone number below if you want to volunteer. Call me directly, we'll get you started. Also, we are open sunrise to sunset, 7 days a week, so come on over and hike around and check us out. So this is a picture from one of our reenactments. Every year we do have a historical reenactment. It is on the first weekend of December. If you look near the Seminole section here, from about her to him, those are actually all Seminole tribe members. We try to keep a really good working relationship with them. They're amazing people, and we're letting them write their side of history when we do construct our new visitor center. We are currently working with our board, full of amazing folks that are helping us raise some money to eventually build a really nice, beautiful visitor center. We are currently having our archaeologists dig and look for our blacksmith shop, and we're going to reconstruct that next. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Ranger Caroline, and I'm so glad that you guys got a chance to come and check out Fort King's Visitor Center. I want to challenge you guys to research your local history. If you come up with a neat project or a painting representing your local history in your hometown, post it in the comments below. Hope to see you soon.